Good. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone back as we reconvene our meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone to the business meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. We have some new faces and we lost some old ones, so let's begin. I'll call the meeting to order at 8:30 with the newly repaired gavel. And let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, again, it's good to see a vibrant crowd tonight for our business meeting. So, bringing things to order, let's begin with additions or deletions to the agenda. Are there any offered?
Mr.
Budney.
I would like to delete from the action item number 6, consultant appointment.
Okay. We have a motion to delete, and before.
Well, I'll support it so we can
discuss.
Okay, and it's supported by. Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Budney, supported by Treasurer Van Oss. The background, and this has been a kind of an ongoing conversation, and it was. I'll just give my take on it. I was initially supporting that just because of the wording and the legal status of our consultants, but Mrs. Gray, I think, pointed out an easier course of action, and if you look, we've deleted the time constraint from the action item.
Okay.
So basically, we're appointing or acknowledging the appointment of our existing consultants, but we are not bound, and we never were bound by the time constraint. The board, of course, can approve or rescind any appointment at any time by a majority vote. So if does that satisfy?
That satisfies. I'd just like to say the reason I brought this up is one, being a new member to the board, along with a couple of others here. We're not familiar with our consultants, and we're in the process of getting to know them. But just aside from that, just as a good business practice, I do believe that we should, on some regular basis, be looking and getting bids on each of the areas, CPA, attorney, engineer, and planner. We should be out there getting bids to see what is in each field, see what's out there, so that we know that we do have the best people as our consultants. And the only way you can do that is to go out for bids, and we definitely need to do this on some consistent manner, rather than me bringing it up this year and maybe nobody bringing it up for the next 3 years. Then the next board comes and somebody else brings it up. We need to get a schedule out there and start looking at this. And I still believe that we need to do this with this group of consultants this year. Not that anybody is being accused of doing anything wrong, or I think going out for bids also shows that maybe we have the best people that we can get. So it works positive as well as negatively, and it's something that I believe we have to do.
Okay. Other comments on this potential on the motion to delete? Okay. With none offered, those in favor of deleting action item 6, as requested by Mr. Budney, signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Nay? Okay, it will stay on, but with the clarification that we have some work to do and put you in charge of that.
Okay,
right.
That's
Okay.
good.
Any other additions or deletions, proposed additions, deletions to the agenda? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands as presented. At this time, utilizing our new board format, we do have items on the agenda, a number of them, and at this time, I'd like to invite public comment on the agenda items. It'll be, again, limited. You know the rules. Introduce yourself, 3 minutes on the items on the agenda. If you have some information you would like to get to the board now, if you haven't contacted your favorite board members already on the issues. So any member of the public, anyone present who wishes to voice an opinion on an agenda? Yes, ma'am. We have one. Volunteer. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Denise Pavarnik, 7750 Groseville Parkway. And I'd like to address item number 7 on the agenda, the Kayla Cooper Memorial. I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of Kayla Cooper. We are here to request that you vote positively on this resolution to permit the installation of the plaque, bench, and garden in loving memory of Kayla Cooper. Kayla was a dedicated student, an active member of Giza, Gyra, Groseville High School, Thespian Troop 2860, the Yearbook Committee, the Marching Band Color Guard, Girl Scouts of America, the Groseville High School, track, soccer, volleyball, basketball, and cross country. Kayla was a member of the Sacred Heart Catholic community where she attended religious education. Kayla was an endearing friend and a loving daughter. We shall always celebrate Kayla, one of our own, although gone in presence, here in spirit and here in our hearts, always to be loved and remembered. Each and every one of our children is special in God's eyes and in ours, and we celebrate them forever and always. In this memorial garden that's on your agenda tonight to celebrate Kayla with such sensorial impact to reflect beauty, bring joy, and inspire, as this garden will symbolize the beauty of Kayla, the joy she brought, and the inspiration she gave. And myself, I was even touched to see that a young soccer player joins us tonight to show her support. And her mother has shared with me that she was inspired by Kayla. So as we envision visiting the Memorial Garden, which looks onto the soccer field where Kayla played as a little girl and refereed as a teen, a sport she so loved, we hear the shouts, support of coaches and parents, the cheers of young players, Groseville neighbors, friends and family, and we remember, we are enriched, we find comfort and peace. We would be most thankful for your positive vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for reminding us just how important all of our friends and children are. Thank you. Wow. Okay, any other public comment on agenda items? Mr. Clark.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. Management wage adjustments. How many do you have?
Okay, Mr. Clark, this is a public comment. I give you a lot of latitude on your legal fee question, but we have. It'll be on the. We'll be discussing this on the agenda item. We have information.
Can we talk then when you do it? When you talk, and we come up?
This is your opportunity. If you can express that you're concerned about it, you don't support it, you do support it, and I'm not taking this time. I'm just explaining. This is your opportunity to let us know.
I like to have speak when you speak on it.
Then you had the opportunity to express your concern about changing the format 2 meetings ago when I announced that we were going to change the format to what the board prefers.
Okay.
So here's your chance. Woody, you got 3 minutes. Tell us what you think about the management wage adjustment.
I don't think it should be because of the fact that we're going down the tubes. The country is going down. You're racing up. I just don't understand why. Also on the general fund, how many times are we going to take the money out of the general fund to pay for such items, recreation or whatever it is? How much money do you have in the general fund to do this money? Because sooner or later you're not going to have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. All will be revealed at the budget presentation. I'm sorry, Mrs. Miller.
Paige Miller, 29900 Bayview. I was just here to express my support and encourage this board to approve the Groseal Township Equestrian Center lease contract, which is on the agenda for this evening. I have 3 reasons in particular that I think this contract should be approved. First one is that our equestrian center here on Groseal is a jewel unique to Groseal. We are the only municipality in the Downriver area and even further far afield which can boast having an equestrian center. This sets us apart and offers something very special for our residents, whether they are a high-level competitor or grandparents who bring out their kids to the barn to feed the horses carrots and to walk through the barns. Hundreds and hundreds of kids, both from Groseal and from off-island, and adults also get to enjoy all the advantages at our equestrian center. The barns are open and welcoming, and Luton Academy does work in cooperation with the Recreation Department and the Groseal Equestrian Club to steward and care for the farm. Number 2, approving this contract is the fiscally prudent thing to do. The Equestrian Center is a cash positive operation for the Recreation Department. Prior to the Lutons operating the Equestrian Center, there were 2 other private groups, and then the Recreation Department also all tried to operate the Equestrian Center. None of them were able to make a go of it. Each time it cost the township thousands of dollars. Luton Riding Academy has proven its ability to both serve the community and consistently make lease payments even during the most depressed of economic times. There is no reason to subject our taxpayers to the risks of added costs that could be associated with any other scenario. Number 3, Luton Riding Academy and our Groseal Township Equestrian Center are good for our kids, offering one more option to keep the kids busy and keep them out of trouble. Luton Riding Academy offers a safe and welcoming environment for kids and adults who love horses. Rob Luton has a special ability to connect with kids and teaches respect, discipline, and builds the confidence of young riders. The Lutons foster a family environment at the barn where everyone helps each other out and cheers each other on. I feel good about the time that my daughter spends at the Equestrian Center with the Lutons. I have seen her grow from a timid, anxious child to a confident and accomplished young lady, and her exposure to horses and to the Luton Riding Academy has been an important part of that transformation. So I hope that many more youth and people in the community can have a similar benefit to what our family has experienced at the Equestrian Center and with Luton Riding Academy, and I encourage you to support that contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Well presented. Other public comment? Mr. Janowski.
Ron Janowski, Grow Road. Is it my understanding by the comments you made to Mr. Clark that this brief public comment at the beginning of the meeting isn't to ask questions? Is that what that's about?
It's public comment.
Okay, so you can't answer any questions.
You can ask, we may not answer.
Well, what's the rule on that?
The rule is it's your public comment. We want to know what you think about the items on the agenda before we vote on them. So,
okay, now, all right, let's start here. The horse mill bike path contract. Last meeting, there was some discussions on how we were going to pay for that. Did that mysteriously, in a public meeting or something, get resolved, and now we're going to award a contract? You don't have to answer that because I'll address that in a minute. Number 10, a consent judgment. Okay, first time I've ever heard about it, and I haven't been sleeping during these meetings, so I have no idea what that's about. And when you go ahead and discuss that to either approve it or not approve it, I haven't got a clue on what you're talking about. And when you do discuss it, I might have a question. Will I be allowed to ask any questions for clarification during that period? Mr. Clark, in a way, asked that question. Can you answer specifically? Will I have an opportunity, if I don't understand what you're talking about, to ask a question for clarification on that subject?
Okay, I'll answer that one for you because this is a new format. The board packets have been available online for, since Thursday? Friday morning, you could have called any of us at any time since Friday, because I know you follow these things, and you would know what we know going into this.
Well, I was out of town, so.
I was too, so you would have to call somebody else.
So is that a yes or a no?
Can you ask a question about it? No, you can make a comment that you'd like more information. I kind of gleaned that from your position, but you will know all you need to know when we discuss.
But how do I know that I'm for it or against it before I have that information?
You can comment at the end of the meeting also.
And wage adjustments. Everybody should be happy that they stay the same. They should be real happy that they didn't go backwards. And they should be real happy that they don't go on half-time like half the country's doing. Everybody's experiencing financial problems. We're up in the game here. It's been made in previous years and at meetings that, geez, we got to pay everybody these high wages, otherwise they'll go somewhere else. Well, you know what? If nobody likes it, why don't they? There's plenty of a lot of openings down in Detroit. There's going to be plenty of openings. Not so far down the street, there's other openings. People are going backwards, and they're happy to keep their jobs. We're going to probably, and I guess I don't want to ask this question, but if we're going to give increases, I think it's improper. And again, this operating transfer from general fund to, now we're starting, we pumped up that general fund a little bit by raising our taxes, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start distributing it amongst other departments. Again, I want to ask, please, if you want to answer, on action items, when you reveal some of the facts, when you're going to discuss this, because this is supposed to be discussed in public, okay, otherwise it's already been voted on and it's going to be approved. Otherwise, I got to assume that we're going to discuss things today and then get a consensus of who's for it and who's against it. Am I correct? That's how it works?
As the board discusses, you will know.
Well, when that discussion happens, and I have a question for clarification, if I don't understand it, can I ask a question? Or are we being cut off?
You are being cut off.
We're being cut off. So
again, I asked for public input on revising the board format last two meetings. I got no input.
No, I objected to it.
You never came up to the podium and said,
you better
well, I'll look at the old meetings. And Ron, you're at, minus my time, you're at about 4 minutes. So
I'm real tired of that. I'm really getting tired of that. And you're going to be on your last, maybe your year, because I will start a recall petition if you continue to keep the public. You got a whole room full of people here, and they're not allowed to ask this board, who they elected, or maybe didn't elect, but you got elected, to go ahead and ask a question of them. Do you understand?
I understand perfectly, Mr. Udowski. Thanks for your comments. Any other public comment as we get into our action items? All right. With none offered, then, we'll close off the public comment session and move to the consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 13-032, which include the minutes of the March 11th, 2013 regular meeting, and the approval of check register dated March 15th and March 22nd, 2013.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney. Any discussion among the board on the consent agenda? All right, with none offered, got to make sure now. With none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The consent agenda stands approved. We will now move on to action items. Action item number 1, I will introduce. Indeed, there it is. All right. I will follow this presentation by introducing action item number 1, but in the meantime, Finance Director Darzniak. All your budget questions will be answered. Thank you, Mrs. Gray.
My computer's running slow.
With a little commercial advertising there.
Okay. Did I miss one? That would be yes.
Which brings me to a more of a tech question. When did we start using Firefox? Did it just insert itself there?
Nice job, Ann.
It's not my department. Do we have any high school seniors here? They usually.
Whatever that is, it just came in and locked everything down.
Yep. Well, as we appropriate more money for technology, I think it's going to be justified.
It's always good to have an exam.
Just before the vote.
And go right back to Main Street.
All
Sorry.
right.
All right.
Okay, calling the meeting back to order. Mr. Dozniak, the Groseal Township budget presentation for the fiscal year of 2013 through 2014.
Good evening. We'll start the budget presentation. Obviously, this is not a complete budget, but it's just some summary and some highlights that we'd like to go through. The first one is our total state equalized value. Basically, our whole budget is derived from our SEV times our mills. And if you can see over the past several years, our highest SEV was in 2008. Those were when times were good. As you can see in 2012, our taxable value dropped to 552, and for 2013 it went up a little bit to 555. So since 2008, in the last 5 years, our taxable value has dropped by 18%. But we do, as we can see from the slide, we do see a turn. Over this year, the building department has been going crazy. We've had new homes. So I do see the economy starting to turn around a little bit, which is very positive.
And as the guy in charge of assessment, let's start with the baseline here. If you go to 2008, the figure 680.8 indicates the total taxable value, the total values of all the properties on Groseal, the taxable values is listed by the state as $680,800,000. So $1,000,000 of that is
Worth
what a mill is worth. So $680,000. So that's where the term, the finances come from. That's where it starts. Okay.
Right. So 1 mil brings in 680,000. Brian's correct.
Yep.
And that's our starting part. But the thing we want to bring to your attention is that, yes, in the last 5 years, it has dropped 18%. Also, if we look at the millages since 2007 to the present time, we are projecting in 2010, we didn't assess the open space or the fire equipment. That's why that one's so low. But if you look at our mills, they pretty much have stayed the same. Obviously, in the 2012, we added the additional mill of 1.0 for operating purposes for the police department. Here on this slide, what this tells us, in 2008 was our best year with our highest SEV. Our millages for operations was 8.9. And over the years, the millages have went up and down depending on when they expired, and new millages came and old ones dropped off. If you actually look at our millages from 2008, which was our highest SEV, to the 2012-2013 is where we're estimating where our millages will be. Our operations millage for the entire township has only increased by 0.5 mils for everything. We've increased our debt mills, and that's due to the drop in the SEV because we have to obtain enough money to pay for those bond payments. That's why the debt mills have had to increase because our SEV went down. I still have that payment, those debt obligations that we have to pay. We have to raise that same sum of money, and to do that we have to raise the mills based on the SEV. So in reality, our mills are pretty much stayed the same. It's the SEV that we've had to have been adjusting to maintain operations. Here just shows the breakdown of the millages. It's a simple pie chart. Basically, our big areas, and you're going to see throughout this budget presentation, is the general fund, which is obviously one of our largest funds, and our debt, which is mostly derived from the sewer separation projects that came with that. So those are a big portion of our budget. If we look for, this is total every budget across the board. The total budget of revenues and expenditures for the entire budget, the entire township, is a little over $25 million. The total budget from last year to this year increased 1.89%. So for a total, we pretty much stayed pretty consistent. Again, this just breaks down the expenditures, how most of the expenditures come along, and again, the general fund, of which is the biggest fund, equal to the Public Works Department and our debt service. All the other ones are minor compared to those majority of our fund. Now we're going to basically just take a look at more of our general fund, which is our major operating fund, which is our most discretionary spending. If you look at, again, the millages, we haven't raised the general fund millages. We continue with the same services, but we haven't really increased the millage since the last year when we added the police millage. But prior to that, our general fund millage has stayed consistent for years, even beyond the 2005. So that has stayed consistent. We eventually, due to, and you're going to see that due to those decline in the SEV, we had to raise the millage to maintain current levels of services. And again, I'll show you those comparables. On the general fund being presented today, we have total revenue of $5.2 million. That is an 8.96% increase over last year as far as revenue. Again, that's due to the additional mill of $552,000 that we got to property taxes. Last year we went into prior resources. We are again going into prior resources this year, but there's a list of things that we've gone into prior resources because we've neglected in the past, and I'm going to go over a list of what the things that we've added that we have neglected in the past, and we knew we had some additional monies, so we applied them to things that we needed. So this year with the projected budget, it's $292,000 in the hole, and I'll go over all those and where we're at. Again, if you look at the top part with our general fund millages, you can see where the revenue had gone down, and now it started in 2011, and I just chose that year. We were at a little over $3 million. So we're back in 2014 with that additional mill to $3.2 million. Again, it's because the SEV has gone down. Your taxes haven't went up incredibly for several years. It's because the SEV has gone down. We're raising the mills to keep those levels consistent. If you look in the prior years, the police department, we are basically operating in 2013, 2014 to the 2008 revenue levels, again, because the SEV has gone down so much that we're now at our 2008 levels, even with the additional mill. So, again, if you look at the majority of general fund, the majority of general fund is the police wages and fringes, which that's controlled by contract. But if you looked in 2011, the wages were taking up 80% of all general fund millages. Now, because of the additional mill, we're back. It went up to almost 92%. Now we're back to 83%. But what we really need to look at is the total police budget, and that's why this millage was so important to keep operations maintained. If you look in 2011, total police budget was $2.8 million, which was about 89% of all taxes collected. Again, in 2013, we got to over 100%. So the police department was taking up 100% of every tax dollar generated by this township. With that additional mill, it brought it down to 93%, which gave the general fund some leeway to operate, because if we still gave them, it's still 93% of all the tax dollars generated. If we go to the expenditures, simple pie chart again, this breaks up the general fund in all the different areas. Again, you can see that 61% is that of the police department. So again, we looked at, when comparing this, looking at this budget, we looked at the differences of last year to this year. Again, remember last year we projected $450,000 deficit. The fiscal year is now coming to an end. I don't feel with that, we'll look at where we see fund balance to be. It's actually better than what we had anticipated. So if we look at that, some of the major changes that we added to general fund this year, some of which are changes that we have put off because there was no money available. And like I said, we can now see that turn, that the community taxable values are going up, so we see it going in the positive direction, and we feel that it was time to do some of these changes that we've been neglecting. One of the areas that we added to this year's budget was township maintenance. We have no township maintenance staff, so we need to allocate. There's a lot of facilities being done. We own a lot of facilities that we needed some money attributed to taking care of facilities. We own a lot of buildings. These are all general fund issues. The next is the bond payment. Went up about $22,000 just based on the bond amortization schedule. The next one is the $7,000 that we were just talking about, the paperless boardroom. So we're trying to bring everything up to the 21st century, so everyone will have stuff available on time online. So we organize notebooks and software for it.
And, excuse me, along with that, there's not only the $7,000 that we have in there, but there's a cost savings to going this way, and
Right.
we will save more by doing this than what we're spending.
Right.
So that's important to know.
Yes. The next one was police retirement increased. This is due because our MERS pension fund, we have an unfunded liability, so what the MERS pension decided to do is shorten up the unfunded liability. So we're actually accelerating our payment for the payback of our unfunded liability, which is a good thing. So that increased. There's an additional vehicle and equipment for the police department of $32,000. Desperate need, we're included in there with a $70,000 cable room upgrade. Obviously, our computers are over 12 years old, so the board felt it was time to we put some money back into and reinvest in this boardroom. Again, due to we had to add some additional legal just in case something happens with the recent incident that happened. So we added some legal. We had additional retiree that we added to the general fund. And finally, our computer network server, we needed an upgrade. Our last computer server was bought in October of 2007. It's about 5 years, so we're kind of looking in that direction of getting our new server. So of the general fund deficit, 292, 315 was for things that we needed and we neglected, and that we need to add to this budget. Just as, now we're going to go into some costs and some cost strategies and what we've been doing. Of the current staffing level, we're down to 49 full-time people. We're down 18 people throughout the township. And our problem is that we're paying for retirees as well. So we have almost, a third of the people that we're providing for are retired. I mean, we can't change what we give to them. It's all by contract. So we're currently paying for the cost of the retirees. That's why these unfunded liabilities are so big right now in communities, and that's all you hear about. So we're taking measures to reduce those unfunded liabilities. And then there's also 27 active volunteer firefighters.
And do you want to explain how we're moving forward on the unfunded liabilities in the future?
Right now, we are proud to announce that we have everyone under the state-funded Healthcare Cap Act through Governor Schneider. What that did is limited the cost that the township could spend on each employee. So right now, we finally are at that level that everyone is participating, and that's a $1,500 per person every year for the health care that is being contributed by the employees. So the employees did take concessions. That's about $77,000 a year, every year, for all active employees. The other thing that we did for all new employees, we are limiting their health care till the age of 65 as well. So after the age 65, they will no longer be on township health care. They're provided to get their own. And what else we're doing for the pension, unfunded pension liability, is new hires have been limited to 10% contribution of all township funds. So even though those liabilities didn't occur overnight, they're not going away overnight, but we're definitely taking measures to go in that direction. Actually, that was one of the charges that this board gave Dale and I, and we said slowly we'll get there, and we're proud to say that we are there. So,
yeah, I think it's important to understand that this unfunded liability and mandate that we're currently operating on with these big numbers, when things were good, we just continued to give, which was okay because it was a general consensus with the automotive, with everybody. But we've taken steps, Ann's taken steps, Dale's taken steps on these new contracts. So this is all actuarial numbers. And although it looks very bleak, the long-term effect of this will be a few years down the road. This will really swing dramatically. And it's important to know that we're not talking hundreds of thousands, we're talking millions over the future of this community going forward. And it's important. That's one of the biggest things that this board and the previous board have set forth in the mandate, that we stop this bleeding. We have to put some kind of a tourniquet on this artery. We have done that. We've done it on all the new contracts, all new incoming employees. It's going to take a while to get there, but we won't be fighting this battle forever. There is an end in sight, and I think that's really important.
right. Just doing some simple computations, we will save the taxpayers over $400,000 a person in the long run. So, like he said, it's not going to show up today, but down the road, it's tremendous efforts. This is just a wage chart of the non-union employees, the union employees, and POAM employees. Basically what this shows is the average consumer price index over the last 15 years is about 2.19%. If you go to the average of the 15 years of wages, In the current budget, we have a 2% for non-union increase, 0% for the union, and a 2% for POEM. If you notice, management has not had a raise in 3 years, or cost of living or anything. I'm not even calling this a raise, it's a cost of living investment, and that's what we're basing it on, the consumer price index. So you can see over the 15-year period, we're basically staying with the cost of inflation as far as as far as employees' wages. Another amazing fact is, if you look at the general fund history for a 15-year period, the same period as our wages, I just showed you that the inflation over time averages at 2.19%. The average general fund budget averages over the last 15 years 1.98%, below cost of inflation. I can't imagine if you can find another community that can do this, or they're in the downriver area. And what we've been doing, you can see that obviously we're down, we're trying to keep expenses. You actually go to our budget versus the actual expenditures only. You can see our budget has always been very close to what our actual expenditures are. We budget, we take it seriously. Managers take it seriously. If they don't have to spend something, they won't. As we say, my conservative approach, I don't let them get by with too much of anything. The only year that stands out is 2010, and that was because we paid for the bridge litigation out of that year. But other than that, you can see it follows fairly closely. And then again, you can see our revenues in 2008, which was our best year, and our expenditures. And you can see that our expenditures are pretty much stay the same since 2004, actually. Again, we want to look at, as the resident had questioned, if you look at revenue, expenditures, and fund balance over the since 2007, you can see revenues were pretty much in the same line. It's 2008 revenues is what we're projecting for the 2004, but our expenditures are staying there too. So you can see that in 2009, which was our best financial year ever, our fund balance was at $3.897, so almost $3.8 million. That was before the economic downturn. That fund balance was there. It was used for how it should be used in the case of those emergencies. And over the last several years, no one had anticipated that this was going to happen. But we had the fund balance available to get us out of the situation. And now, at the end of the day, being very conservative, if this budget is adopted at the end of the 2014, our fund balance will be $2.6 million, which is almost 49% of our expenditures. The industry wants you to have a fund balance of at least 25%. So I feel that everyone did a great job with this budget, and I recommend that it be adopted. And I also want to thank everyone for helping me with this. Anyone have any questions?
Okay, from the board, questions for Mrs. Darsniak.
I don't have a question. I just want to make a statement regarding this. We did spend a lot of time on this budget, and I am quite possibly the most conservative person on this board, and fought many times with Ann and Dale and Ted over various things. And I just want the residents of this island to know that everybody sitting here and Ann and Dale all take this very, very seriously. The fact that we have to go into our reserve is a balancing act of going into the reserve versus letting things go to the point where they're going to cost us a lot more to replace computer-wise, et cetera. It also agreeing or accepting this budget is with the eye on the future to address the problems that are draining or taking out of our rainy day fund. So it's not something where we're sitting back here and just saying, well, we got money in reserve, we're going to use it. It's a matter of what do we need to do, what's the smart thing to do to have it cost us the least in the in the long run, and what do we need to do in the future to try and stop the bleeding. So we are working on that. I only went along with this because I said I want a promise that we will work on that this year, and everybody was for that. And so I just want everybody to know that we take this seriously, and we are as concerned as you are because we are residents too. We are paying taxes also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Buddy. Mr. Ranka?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Jim, very well put. Obviously the board and the management, put together the budget, but it's really the staff, the entire staff that executes the budget on a yearly basis. And really for this township to have beaten the basically inflation for 15 years is absolutely unbelievable when you consider all of the health care, the fuel costs, the gas and electricity costs, all the increases that we've had. So just a phenomenal job of keeping the lid on things.
Yep. I have some comments.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Obviously this is a lot to digest as a new trustee taking office back on November 26th. It's somewhat overwhelming. There's a lot to learn. There's a big learning curve. What I would like to see is us try to improve our processes so that we're not in the same position next year at the same time. I think we can do that. We've got a very smart board. We've got 7 individuals up here who've got a lot to contribute and look at things from different perspectives. We've got great employees. We've got a township filled with knowledgeable people that can help us get to where we need to be. But I think we need to start earlier. I think that we need to put together a list of wants versus needs, kind of create a cut list. When I was at Lapeer Community Schools, our superintendent every year had all of the central office leadership team sit down and talk about the things that were necessary to keep the cuts away from the students. And I think that using that same mentality, keeping the cuts away from residents so that inconsequential things are not being spent, I think that we need to determine what a comfortable amount is that we as a board will accept going into our reserve annually if we determine that that's going to be the way that we need to operate, because sometimes there are emergencies. When we have a MDEQ administrative consent order possibly coming down the pipe, a couple other things, maybe we need to take a look at how we operate. Do we need to seek another recreation department millage? Do we need to determine if there's a police department millage that we need to seek and get them out of the general fund? Additionally, I think that we need to look for small dollars, not just those big dollars, those big, okay, let's just lay off a bunch of people and call it a day, because that's not going to solve all of our issues. We're still going to have those same problems tomorrow. I'm nervous. This is very overwhelming for me. I think I reviewed everything. I think I'm going to go along with this at this point because you guys did put in a lot of work. You did put in the time. But I think that we have to correct our problems, and we can't just get here at the same time next year and expect that things are going to, be different. I've had conversations with individuals on the board, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Other comments from the board? All right, with none off. Oh, I'm sorry. Treasurer.
I just want to make a few quick comments. If you look at the depletion of the fund balance going back to 2007, it's important to realize that we self-funded a number of projects in this township that did deplete that fund. One of them was very big. When we had the litigation on the sewer, that we ended up levying a tax millage for $7 million. The cost of that project was close to $9.5 million. if you include the attorney's fees. And the township continually paid those attorney fees out of this general fund. It was a big hit to the general fund, but it stopped us from having to come to the taxpayer and rather than ask for a mill or 0.9 mils and asking them for $1.5 million. That money came out of the general fund. I think it's important to note, I think Lauren made a great point. We need to establish what is the bottom line that we want this general fund to go to. But also we need to realize that we're not here to build a fund. And we need to utilize, we've taken this money from every taxpayer in this room. Now, why did we take it? We took it to run this township. And when we need to go into it, just like if a roof in your house goes bad, you don't get your kitchen wet just because you don't want to go into your bank account, take your money out. When we have an issue where we need to protect assets, we tap this general fund. There is a bottom line. We all know that. Everybody understands that. But understand that it is a fund. And we're not here to build funds. When we were in the DPS department, we had our funds exceeding $3.5 million, and we needed a lot of work to be done at the sewage treatment plant, just in maintenance and upgrades, a new electrical system, a new heating system, a number of things, some infrastructure upgrades. We took that out of the fund that was in the DPS department rather than come back to the taxpayer and raise your rates. So it's important to know that funds are funds, but we're not here to build funds. We're here to manage funds. And with the help of Ann and the finance department, and with the help of this board, I'm confident that we're managing these funds in the best way possible. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Other comments from the board? I'd like to build on then, just in the closing comment, on what our treasurer had to say. And again, Mr. Budney, we spent many, many hours beating up Ann, trying to find that the fast buck and the last buck, and made the general consensus opinion and moving us forward on that mindset that there are things we need to continue to fund. And I emphasize over and over again, our only source of, we do not have a strong business supporting our tax base like some of the local communities. We're based on property values, the values of your home. So if we can support those amenities, and I'll go to, why are we putting money into rec? Because it impacts property values. If we were to close the pool, would a new family consider moving to Grosse Ile or somewhere else? If that, hopefully, is maybe one of those little decision makers that allows a family to decide, I want to live in Grosse Ile. They have a pool. They have recreational opportunities. They've got the best public safety around. We have excellence. Even though schools are out of our purview, we collaborate with them. One doesn't succeed without the other. So these are, I think, I'm considering this is a reach into our reserves, but it's to maintain those investment services that separate us from other communities and will allow us to recover more quickly than other communities because, again, we rely on the values of your homes. If nobody wants to buy your home, it loses value. If people are lined up to buy homes here, they increase in value. It's just the way a free market works. I want to keep those property values up. We will reverse this. I want to keep those property values up and accelerate the reversal. So that's why, we beat that up for hours and hours, but that's why we are where we are. And again, two guys came out of semi-retirement to make this happen, and other trustees gave us all the time they could spare. This was a team effort. I think we are where we need to be on this. So again, to the board and Ann, thank you. With that, we'll bring the presentation to a conclusion. Thank you, Mrs. Darsniak. Okay, where was I? Action items. Oh. A little out of order, but it's a new day. Okay, we'll move on to action item number 1, and I will introduce it. Approval of the 2013 through 2014, that's starting April 1st through March 31st, fiscal year Township budget.
Support.
Seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Golly, we pretty much had the nuts and bolts of it. Any other questions or comments from the board? Again, most of the board was involved in this to some level or another. We really have worked on this. I'm confident this is where we need to be. Comments from the board that we didn't get at the presentation? Going. With no comments offered, then I'll bring it up to a vote. Those in favor of adopting the annual fiscal year budget ending March 31st, 2014, the combined township budget, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? Oh, that was relatively, I'm getting almost suspicious. But again, we all worked on this. So thank you, and we will spend your tax dollars wisely. Move on to action item number 2.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I move that we adopt the Groseville Township Board of Trustees meeting schedule for fiscal year 2013 and 2014.
Okay, I'll support that. The list is published. Background, Mr. Ranka?
It just sets the meeting schedule to be basically the same as it is this year, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, and just lists out where we're at for the entire year. So 2 meetings in April, 1 in May, 2 in June, 2 in July, 2 in August, 2 in September, 2 in October, 1 in November, 1 in December, and then starting the beginning of the last part of our fiscal year, 2 in January, 2 in February, and then 2 in March with an annual meeting to be determined.
Okay, any other questions, comments from the board? By statute, the board has to approve these at the first, it's the last meeting of the closing year, I think is the way the statute reads, so this is what we're doing. This will be our board schedule. Of course, the board at a public meeting can change or cancel any of these meetings, but we have to do it at a public meeting prior to making any alterations. Questions, comments from the board? Mrs. Smith?
My only comment is I think we work really well together so far, and I think it would be great to actually have more study and work sessions together as opposed to just business meetings so that we can work on tangible tasks like the budget. That's it.
So with those will be, those become part of a public meeting. Those are posted, and we have a lot of work to do, so those will be added. Other comments, questions from the board? All right, none offered. Those in favor of approving or adopting the 2013-14 Township Board meeting scheduled as presented in your packet, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none offered. Okay, we have our meeting schedule.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I move that we, that consistent with Section 19.8 of the labor contract, the following holidays will be observed in 2013 and 2014. They are Monday, May 27th, Thursday, July 4th, Monday, September 2nd, Monday, November 11th, Thursday, November 28th, Friday, November 29th, December 24th and 25th, December 31st, January 1st, January 20th, February 17th.
Okay, looking for support.
Support.
Okay, seconded by Trustee Budney. He has read it's pretty much a standard government holiday schedule, Memorial Day, Independence Day. I mean, you know the drill. We have to, again, much like our public meeting, we have to establish these become almost at ordinance level. So, any comment from the board?
Mr. Supervisor, just a quick question. We have listed 12 days in the history and explanation. Where they go through the days, we have 13. And the day that isn't in there is Good Friday. And it's mentioned in 19.8. I'm just...
13 is correct.
Good Friday should be in there.
Good catch.
Mrs. Gray. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Well, armed with that knowledge, any other comments from the...
That clears that up.
Any other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving, consistent with Section 19.8 of our labor contract, approving the holidays as read by Clerk Ranka. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. We have therefore adopted the holiday schedule for the following fiscal year. Moving on to action item number 4.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint the reappointment of Township Committee Commission members for the fiscal year 2013 to 2014.
Okay, we have the motion for the reappointment of commission committee members, and I will second that. And we will do this in something of a block, and Robert's Rules does allow us to do this. So I'm going to request the trustees who serve as liaisons to the various committees on which these volunteers serve to offer their names. And I'll begin with confirming the supervisor's reappointment of Mr. Jay Frucci and Mr. Brian Pollock to the Planning Commission for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2016.
To reappoint Christopher Manns to the Airport Commerce Park Commission and the Brownfield Authority, term of April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2016.
To reappoint Patricia Nielsen, Woody Clark, and Art Kester to the Greenways Open Space Committee for the term of April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2016.
Okay, to confirm the supervisor's reappointment of Anthony Kraus and Alan Anderson to the Construction Board of Appeals for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2015.
To reappoint Pamela Frucci to the Island Beautification Committee for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2016.
To reappoint Scott Smith to the Airport Advisory Committee for the term of April 1, 2013 to March 31st, 2016.
Okay, to reappoint Gloria Trudell, Ron Moran, and Jay Frucci to the Downtown Development Authority for the term October 1st, 2012 to September 30th, 2016.
To reappoint Chad Novak, Bethany Rista, William Moreau, David Zula, and Ann Darzniak to the Festival Commission for the term September 1st, 2012 to August 31st, 2015.
To reappoint James Bittinger, John Carnego, Robert Pierce to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2016.
Okay, that is our list on the slate of appointments. Any questions, comments from the board? None offered. Those in favor of approving the reappointments to the various commissions, committees, as previously entered, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. They are approved. And again, to those individuals who are volunteering to, again, do the heavy lifting, thank you. Moving on to action item number 5, Commission Committee Chairs.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make the motion for the appointment of committee commission chairpersons for fiscal year 2013-2014.
Okay, I will second that. There is some background on the appointment of the commission committee chairs.
According to Article 1 in the General Commission Guidelines, General Provisions, there shall be a commission chairperson who shall be appointed annually by the Township Board for among the members of the commission, provided, however, that the Planning Commission chairperson shall be selected in accordance with MCL 125.325. No member of the Township Board shall serve as permanent commission chairperson. A commission member may select a vice chairperson, secretary, and/or such other officers from its membership as it deems necessary for its proper operation.
So that's our our township code background for the appointments of the commission chairs. They're appointed by the board, and we will proceed with that now. Mr. Rankin.
Yeah, to start the list off, to appoint Mr. John Schweikert as chairman of the Planning Commission for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014.
To appoint Ron Moran, Brownfield Authority, term of April 1st, 2013, March 31st, 2014.
To appoint William Costick as chairperson for the Public Service Commission for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014.
To appoint Cliff St. Pierre as chairperson of the Greenways Open Space Committee for the term of April 1, 2013 to March 31, 2014.
To appoint Stuart Keeler as chairperson of the Fire Commission for the term of April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014.
Yours, Mike?
Cheers.
Appoint James Morris, Construction Board of Appeals, term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014.
To appoint Carl Bletcher as the chairperson of the Police Commission for the term April 4th, 2013 to April 3rd, 2014.
To appoint Wally Catcher as the chairperson of the Community Recreation Commission for the term of April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014.
To appoint Ron Moran, chairperson of the Airport Commerce Park Commission, term April 1st, 2013, March 31st, 2014.
To appoint Amy Longton as chairperson of the Festival Commission for the term of April 1st, 2013 through March 31st, 2014, as well as to appoint Kathy Walker as chairperson of the Communications Commission for the term of April 1st, 2013 through March 31st, 2014.
And to appoint Ron Moran as chair of the Downtown Development Authority for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014. Additionally, to appoint Art Kester as chairman of the Island Beautification Committee for the term April 1st, 2013, March 31st, 2014.
To appoint James Bittinger as chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the term April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014.
To appoint Al Anderson as chair of the Airport Advisory Committee, term of April 1st, 2013, March 31st, 2014.
To appoint Brian Pollock as chairperson of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission for the term April 1, 2013 to March 31st, 2014.
And to appoint Richard Nielsen as chairperson of the Border Review for the term March 5th, 2013 through December 31st, 2013. That concludes our slate of commission committee chair appointments by the board. Questions, comments from the board on those chair positions?
Just one comment. All of these chair people were brought forward by the commissions, respective commissions, and were approved by the commissions. And thanks for your work and your effort. This is really great to see so many volunteers out there.
Any other comments from the board? I certainly echo that sentiment. With none offered, those in favor of the approving the slate as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Again, they are appointed or reappointed. Thank you for your service. Moving on, action item number 6, the Township Consultant Appointments. I will introduce this. And I will recommend the following positions for the Township Consultants. Actually, I'll begin with, I will move that we appoint or reappoint Mr. Thomas Sorty to serve as municipal attorney.
Support.
Okay, that's seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Mr. Van Oss? Figured I'd let you do the auditors since...
Let me find it here. I'd like to make a motion to approve Hungerford and Company as township auditors for the fiscal year 2013-2014.
Support.
Okay, seconded by Trustee Budney.
I moved to appoint the Charles Raines Company as to serve as township engineers.
Support.
Okay, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss.
I move to appoint LSL Planning to serve as municipal planners.
Support.
Seconded by Trustee Budney. Again, we are moving in as a slate. There is attached documents from each of the consultants. As Mr. Budney proposed earlier, scrutiny, more, I guess I'll use the term more scrutiny on our professional consultants. It's not a job for life, but at the moment, this has been out for the board for the last 2 months. No one has had any complaints with the consultants we have. If we do have problems with them, the board will entertain replacing. There is no time constraint. These are not contractual. The board reserves the right to replace or hire a new if we want to open up another professional consultant position anytime it deems fit by a majority vote. Any questions, comments from the board?
I have one.
Mr. Treasurer.
I've been at this 4 years. All of the consultants that we put on staff have agreed to maintain rates. There's been no increase. And I can't tell you how important history is. This whole township runs on history, especially when it comes to the things that we do. I firmly support each and every member or each and every consultant that's submitted, and I thank them for being able to hold the line for as many years as they've had. I'm not sure I could do it in business, but I'm glad that they will, so I'm in full support of this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Other comments from the board?
Mr. Supervisor?
Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, in looking over all the letters, it looked really good. I thought, like Ted said, there seems to be a long-standing history, and I think that's important. One of the things that I appreciate is not having a billable rate increased, but then we also need to keep an eye on billable hours, because that's where they can also, they're very different.
And that becomes the responsibility of the respective commissions, committees,
Right.
and all of us, actually. But thank you for that, reminding us of that situation. Other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the renewal or the continuation of the professional consultants as previously discussed and named, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? Gentlemen, ladies, thank you for allowing us to run the township. Moving on to action item 7. I did have a request for a comment. I'm going to disallow that request for the sake of continuity. We had the passionate request for the Kayla Cooper Memorial, and I will turn that over for a motion to be entered by one of our trustees. I'm sorry, Tom.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make the motion. A little rusty at this. The proposed motion is for, help me here. I'm going to read the resolution, if that'll be suffice.
Let's get, you know what, I will second it. So we have a motion second. Please, now read the resolution. The motion has been seconded.
I apologize. Whereas Kayla Cooper was an all-around student and contributing member in various high school and community groups and someone who deserves to be recognized for her youthful spirit and service, and whereas Kayla Cooper was actively involved in the Groseville Soccer Association as a player and eventually as a game official, and whereas Groseville Township Community Recreation Commission requests that the Groseville Township Board approve the memorial nomination of Kayla Cooper by permitting the installation of a plaque, bench, and garden with a tree and stepping stones at the airport recreation area in loving memory, Kayla. And whereas the Groseville Township Board finds it fitting and proper to honor Kayla, and now therefore be resolved by the Groseville Township Board as follows. Upon said designation, the Community Recreation Commission has cause to permit the Friends of Kayla Cooper to install a plaque, bench, and a garden with a tree and stepping stones within an area not to exceed 20 feet by 20 feet at the airport and recreation area. This resolution will become effective upon its adoption, and the only put the date in place.
Questions, comments from the board?
Is the location of this going to be looked at by the Planning Commission or by the Recreation Commission? Has it already been determined?
Okay, Mr. Rooney's going to address that.
Thank you. We're still looking at certain areas there. GISA has has been involved also, because they utilize the fields down there. They're one supporter of the nomination. But we haven't identified it yet, but we know there's plenty of room, and we're very excited about it.
You're in the middle of this?
Yes, yeah, the Recreation Department. It came to, I think they all received the nominations in December. The Recreation Commission looked at it in January. They took a month. February, they unanimously support the Kayla Cooper Memorial.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Other questions? Since this will be a recreation, administered by the Rec Department. Not so fast. You may not be done yet. Any other questions, comments from Mr. Rooney? Okay, now you can. Thanks, Tim. Sorry. Other questions, comments from the board that don't involve Mr. Rooney? All right, those in favor of approving the resolution for the Ms. Kayla Cooper Memorial, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. And thank you for bringing this to our community. All right, moving on. The Equestrian Center.
Mr. Supervisor, you're double dipping me. This is quite a lengthy motion, but it's for the approval of the Centennial Farm operating agreement between Grosse Ile and the Loughtons, excuse me. I suppose I should read the Grosse Ile Township referred to hereinafter as the owner, and the Luton Riding Academy, Inc., referred to hereinafter as operator, enter into this agreement for the purpose of operating and maintaining the Equestrian Center at the Centennial Farm, the performance of which shall be personally guaranteed by the owners of operator as described below, the below agreement. The operator agrees that the primary purpose of the Centennial Farm is to provide the facility for the passive recreational use and benefits of the citizens of Grosse Ile, and agrees to fully cooperate with the owner in developing the Centennial Farm for this public purpose. Both the owner and operator agree the overall success of the farm is also dependent upon serving residents in the neighboring communities. Any conflicts or disputes that may arise under the agreement will be reviewed with this purpose in mind. Term of the agreement shall commence on April 1st, 2013, and end on June 30th, 2017, the initial term. The operator shall have the right to extend this agreement for an additional 5 years period from July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2022, hereinafter extended term. The extended term shall be upon the same terms, covenants, and conditions as provided for in this agreement for the initial term. And bill of sale for the BX 2230 Kubota sub-tractor trailer and the following attachments for the sum of $3,000 payable pursuant to the following schedule: $1,020 on April 1st, 2013, $1,020 on or before June 1st of 2013, and $1,020 on or before August 1st of 2013. Grosse Ile and Michigan Municipal Entity, the seller, does hereby convey to Luton Riding Academy, Inc., a Michigan corporation, as purchaser, all of its right, title, and interest to the following equipment: a BX 2230 Kubota sub-tractor trailer, serial number 53061, with the following attachments: an LA 11FL-2 Kubota front-end loader, serial number 31279, an RB 0580 Land Pride 60-inch rear blade, serial number 413709, and LR 0560 Land Pride 60-inch rake, serial number 416541, referred to as equipment.
Second.
Thank you. I didn't want to have to read all that without it being said. So thank you, Clerk Ranka. It's an extensive history and contract notes. We've been working on this for some time, haven't we? And we did get a public comment which pretty much encapsulates my thoughts on, thank you, Mrs. Miller, on the success Mr. Luton, Mr. and Mrs. Luton have had running the Equestrian Center. There have been a few rough edges. I think we've worked those over. I hope you're going to work that tractor down to its axles. So, any questions, comments from the board?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Treasurer.
I assume Tom, that this was approved by the Recreation Commission,
Yes, it was, sir.
and Mr. Supervisor, I assume that the contract was reviewed and approved by the Township Attorney?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. That's it.
Mr.
Well, important questions.
Yes.
Mr. Buddy.
And I guess I'll ask Tom this question because I assume you are familiar with this. In the term, the initial term goes for 5 years, and the operator has the right to extend for an additional 5 years with no increase in the amount we receive. I'm just wondering if any thought went in to the negotiations that over a 10-year period we shouldn't have some type of increase in the amount of money we're receiving. I find it hard to believe that our expenses are going to stay the same for 10 years and not go up. I'm just wondering if that was even looked at.
If you'll allow, I've had this conversation with Dale Ream, and Dale had a good explanation on this, and if I could ask Dale to just cover it.
Yes, sir. We did discuss it amongst ourselves of whether or not we wanted to put some type of cost of living factor or some type of escalator within the terms of the agreement. And what we feel is at the end of the 5-year term, there will probably most likely be other things that we will need to address, which in essence, even though it is renewable, that we'll have additional and further negotiations. So it is possible that it could remain flat, but at the same time, we didn't want to lock ourselves in either direction. And just because there is the option of the renewability of 5 years doesn't mean that that is guaranteed.
Thanks, Dale. Yeah, I know. I just, again, from some business sense, you think we should try. Not, we can't predict what it's going to be like 5 years from now, but chances are we know that things are going to increase. So I think a small increase in there would not have been improper. But thank you for your explanation.
Okay. Other questions, comments from the board on the ratification of this contract?
I'd just like to make a short statement in regards to the sale of the Kubota tractor. The Luthans are the primary user of this piece of equipment, and as always with a piece of mobile equipment like this, there's liabilities involved, and the township wanted to be released from that type of liability. So we took got fair market value for a piece of equipment of this age, and of course we made an offer to the Lutons, and they agreed to it. The only reason it's broken into 3 payments was to give them a little hand, but there is a small interest fee paid on it. That's why you're seeing $1,020 as opposed to just $1,000 3 times. But in the end, they are the primary users. They will get the most benefit from it, and it just relieves us of that liability.
Tom, how old is the tractor?
2004, is that it?
Thanks, Tim.
Any other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, and this has been a long time coming, those in favor of ratifying the contract for Centennial Farm Operating Agreement with Luton Riding Academy, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? Congratulations, and best of luck with your riding academy. Oh, Mr. Posiask, we've been waiting for this.
It's been a long night, hasn't it? Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make the following proposed motion to award the Horse Mill Road bike path contract from Meridian Road to Park Lane to Campo Brothers in the amount of $398,842. And furthermore, the project shall be funded by the following account designations: Bike path construction, $255,925. Drainage, $46,405. Metro Fund Acts, $43,504. And bike path maintenance as a loan of $21,008. Furthermore, the project award shall be subject to approval of a pre-award bulletin in the amount of $27,000 in credit for savings in the undercut quantities and pavement reduction on Thoroughfare Road. And furthermore, an additional $30,000 will be designated as a loan from bike path maintenance for engineering and utility relocation, and the repayment terms for this internal loan shall consist of an annual payment of $5,678.54 from the future Metro Act revenues for a term of 10 years at 2% annually.
Second.
Okay, so we're moved by Trustee Posiaski and seconded by Clerk Ranka. This has been quite a while coming, and I'm glad to see it coming to a fruition. Background that we haven't beat up in previous board meetings. I particularly like the explanation of the loan from bike path maintenance, an internal loan repaid from future Metro Act funds at an interest that the bike path maintenance fund would not receive in our normal deposit system. So it is a benefit to the bike path maintenance fund in the long run. Questions, comments from the board?
This has been a long time in coming. I commend Wally for taking the liaison position with the Bike Path Commission, and the Bike Path Commission for bringing this thing to fruition, as well as Jack Delphi, who I thought we would see here tonight, but we don't, for his initial push for this legislation. So this is, I think this is one of the things, Mr. Supervisor, you said is a way that we manage our funds to bring value to the citizens, so that we bring value to the properties on Grosse-Ile. So I couldn't be more excited about getting this bike path deployed.
Very good. Cycling is one of the assets Grosse-Ile Township's become known for. It's regarded as one of the most scenic cycling venues, I guess is the word, in Michigan. So we got that going for us. Other questions, comments from the board?
Just a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're all jumping in.
Okay, Mr. Treasurer.
My only comment is, Eric and Wally, you've done a great job negotiating this program. It's been in the works for a long time. We've already spent a lot of money on engineering, the bid process, and I would have hated to see all of those plans and prints end up in somebody's file drawer for the next 5 years. I think this is a culmination of a lot of hard work. I'd like to commend the new Bike Path Committee. You've done a great job. You guys are bulldogs. You've done a great job. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
Amen.
Other comments from the board?
Mr. Supervisor, just to make sure that people understand that this is another piece in our puzzle, we're going to have a community that is going to be a physically active community. It might even help me. Easy now.
That was a positive.
Okay. But the point is that that committee is working with other committees, working on other projects that are all aiming at that opportunity to make Grosse-Ile a destination point for people who value bike paths, who value off-road and trail walking and things of that nature. So I could not be more happy to be involved with a bunch of 80-mile-an-hour people. I keep referring to you that way. But thank you for the work you've done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, Mrs. Smith.
I have a question. I'm assuming that once the weather breaks and spring finally arrives, that we'll be able to commence this project and get some stuff going. Is that the plan?
Barry, can you start tomorrow if we approve it?
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay. Great.
Okay, Mr. Sedlock's comment was as soon as it dries up and we can start digging and buying and pouring asphalt, this will get going. It'll be up and running early this summer, I hope. And we'll see the kids on the big wheels and the moms with the strollers and the bicycles and the runners and completing that loop around the island.
I'd like to make a comment.
Mr. Melvesto.
I'd like to do a little shoulder padding as well. First off, to Eric, because he was the first one involved with this new committee. And yes, they have taken off, not just running, they're doing 80 miles an hour, and a fantastic job to put the plan like this together. It would have been a shame, as Ted said, if this project had not gone forward or had been delayed any longer, because the longer we delay it, the more expensive this project is going to get. Well, I'm going to get to you in just a second here. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I know a number of people from off island have come on island, see our bike paths, and they have nothing but the best of things to say about it. Not everything in life is perfect, but what we have is far better than most communities have, and it's giving access, safe access, to a path off the main roadways for the runners, the families pushing their strollers with the kids riding their bikes, myself as well. I'm a danger. But Wally, thank you for taking over and becoming involved in this. And I know you're getting your new running shoes, so you can catch up a little bit. But thank you as well as Eric. Both of you guys have done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Other comments from the board? I'd like to culminate with my thanks, and I'm sure all of our thanks, to Dale and Ann for finding ways to come up with the last few dollars to make this happen. Otherwise, again, as our treasurer said, these plans would go nowhere. We searched for every legal dollar we could find, and again, not creative accounting, but just creative thinking on funding this and getting this project moving. So to the money people, thank you, and all this who made this happen. It was a team. Mr. Rankin.
Just to follow along that same path, there's also some our consultants, Sohail and the Russ from CE Rains also cut their fees to make this a reality as well as Campo Brothers, the low bidder, in this cutting their fees as well. So there's a lot of accolades to go around on this one.
Okay, thanks. And Mr. Monteleone, it will pass your accounting standards. Okay, any final comments from the board on approving this bike path contract? With none offered, those, put the glasses on again. Those in favor of approving the Horse Mill Bike Path contract award to Campo Brothers for $398,842 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Again, thanks to all who made this happen. Okay, now we're talking about a proposed consent judgment. And I move that the Township Board will approve the recognition of the consent judgment, Cornful versus Groseal and Finazzo.
Support.
Okay, seconded by Trustee Budney. The background, and I will, Mr. Riem, if you want to cover this better than me, by all means, you take the hits.
Simply put, the township is helping facilitate a settlement. And what's behind the case is the appellant appealed the decision that the township zoning official made related to the shoreline setback for the placement of a single-family home on the property owned by Finazzo. The zoning board, which by ordinance acts as the appeal board, determined that the zoning official interpreted the township's ordinance appropriately. In the next step, the appellant Cornful appealed this decision of the ZBA to the Wayne County Circuit Court, which is all established by state law and township ordinances. And the township was named as a party, and the property owners reached a resolution relative to the placement. So there was an adjustment west, and what this agreement does is memorializes this procedurally, and it will dismiss the appeal. From the adjustment, one factor is that this resolution will now go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance, which is scheduled for tomorrow, which is separate and distinct.
Separate.
So, but in essence, we're asking that the board recognize the facilitation of the settlement.
Okay. And to continue, normally, some litigation is coming before the board. Not all of it does. Consider the township is involved in litigation with every traffic ticket. Board doesn't need to be involved in this, but my thoughts just going forward, if it's going to be down at Third Circuit and a judgment will be rendered by Third Circuit, then the board needs to be involved in it. Therefore, this is before with the encouragement of the township attorney, this is before the board, again, as was stated, to memorialize the settlement on this suit. So, questions?
Dale, I do.
Mr. Malvesto.
Yes, sir.
Because the township is a named party, do we have any legal fees tied up in this at this time?
Yes, we have some time involved. The exact amount.
I'm trying to figure out what each inch cost us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that remark. But
It was.
I don't mean this. I'm not referring to our attorney. I'm just for 3 or 4 inches. I'm trying to get a grasp on it.
In all fairness, both parties are entitled to review by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and if either party is not happy with the Zoning Board of Appeals, or for that matter, any resident on the island isn't happy with the Zoning Board of Appeals decision, they have the right to take that to the court. To the Third Circuit Court, which then acts as a court of appeals over the ZBA matter. By state statute, the township is required to be a party because ultimately we've made the decision in that matter. They're appealing the decision's been made by our ZBA. Quite honestly, most of the fees that have been incurred have been in the facilitation of the consent judgment because we knew that both parties could probably get to an agreement in the long run.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be sarcastic, but it just at the end of the day, I'm looking at a 3 or 4 inch adjustment. And
just to be correct, and I helped write that information. It was written 3 to 4 inches. It is 3 feet 4 inches is the total amount of adjustment that's there, and we do have a pretty unique piece of property there that's involved.
You got to keep in mind the peril. Should this go to the Court of Appeals and the Court of Appeals rule against the township's zoning ordinances, then that genie would really be out of the bottle at that point, and it would be incredibly expensive for us.
And Tom, although this is the settlement, that wasn't the original issue. It was much larger than that. So, and this was one of those cases where the zoning, where the Dr. Finazzo, who owns the property, got the approval. The neighbor went in and filed the appeal against that approval, and then it ended up in court. So,
I just based on the way it read, 3 to 4 inches west of the original placement.
But that wasn't the original issue.
All right.
Just if you can see in the initial complaint, the original issue was whether or not the township had properly interpreted its own zoning ordinance, which, without going into great detail in open session, is a big legal issue for the township.
So this is actually working out like settlements, best for everybody involved.
Just that we got, we're named, and I understand why we're named, but maybe not everybody does. That's why I asked.
Okay. And thank you for that. Other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of recognizing and therefore memorializing the consent judgment, Corneful versus Groseal versus Finazzo, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered? That one is done. Okay, management wage adjustments. I will introduce this. And the proposed motion will be to adjust the management wages for the fiscal year 2013 through 2014 in accordance with the proposed management wage adjustment chart dated March 25, 2013, which includes a 2% cost of living increase and a $4,500 market adjustment for the police department confidential secretary.
Support.
Seconded by Treasurer Manos. Okay, this is, I could read the history and purpose, and That might just be the best bet for starters. Proposed recommendation is in accordance with employee evaluation policy. In addition to normal daily interaction, regular briefings took place with department managers. The entire management staff has earned a cost of living factor. The amount of 2% was budgeted for and is consistent with discussions during budget preparation. 2% COLA is also afforded the officers and dispatch in the police contract. And due to the efforts of the management team over the past many years, Township has been able to face the fiscal challenges. The management team has not received a cost of living adjustment for the past 3 years. In addition, the employee contribution out-of-pocket health care expenses have increased to approximately $1,700 per year per individual. I strongly believe the managers are deserving of a performance bonus. However, budgetary restrictions and conservative planning prohibit performance funds from being allocated. However, a market rate adjustment is being recommended for the police department confidential secretary in the amount of $4,500, bringing the salary for this position up to $49,202. The proposed market adjustment will raise this position to a level consistent with the increased job duties the position has experienced over the past 5 years, as well as balance the position pay in relation to comparable positions in the area police departments and similar township positions. The adjustment for this position has been under consideration for the past 3 years. Similar positions in the law enforcement field range in pay from $40,000 to $55,000 annually. Similar township positions range in pay from $48,000 to $52,000. This is, again, it causes some discussion. And is our management team due a raise? I think so. Could we withhold it? Would we get the same goodwill, the extreme hard work, diligence of efforts that they've put in? Not to mention the $1,700 a year per manager per year cost savings. We are down, I went through the numbers this afternoon, but 17 employees over the last 6 or 7 years, and with no noticeable reduction in service to the residents. That increase has been borne on the backs of, to a great extent, our township managers getting more work for less dollars to keep things running smoothly. Yeah, we could withhold it. Would we have the goodwill, the extra efforts that at least I've seen and I will attest to? I don't think so. I don't think I would even expect that if we allowed the union contracts to exceed the pay of the managers they report to. So that's my initial input on this. I'm entertaining comments, questions from the board.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
Just as you said, I mean, all the positive aspects of the budget that we have are on the backs of these individuals, right? We create the budget, we approve the budget with obviously input and significant input from the staff, but they're the ones that are day in and day out executing to that budget. And I think this is a very fair increase. It's a total of $19,000 across the entire staff, and for these people to have been able to keep our total budget below inflation for the past 15 years, and many of these people have been here for 15 years, all of those 15 years, I think this is a very, very small token that we can give these individuals.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
I'd like to say something as well. We all know a salary is a salary, and it's not based on a 40-hour week. And our managers have simply have proved that for many years. It's them showing up at meetings on numerous occasions. Well, they could be home with their families. It's the lending a hand at the Island Fest, moving tables, picking up trash, that sort of thing. Nobody really sees everything they do. Yes, they're working with less people, and they're taking on more responsibilities. And as Eric said, this is a very reasonable increase. It's no more than 2% cost of living, and they really do deserve it. So at the end of the day, I'm for it. I'm not going to oppose it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Malvesta. Other comments from the board, Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. All that's been said, first of all, I agree with, and I think it is something that you do have to take into consideration. Sure, you can say, hey, we can't afford it. But you have to look at those intangibles, those hours that these people put in. Believe me, and I came to the board meetings for years before I ran for trustee, and I still had no idea of how much our employees put into their job. And people who criticize really don't know what a wonderful workforce we have. Not only all our volunteers and our police, our fire, but the people here in Township Hall, for the great majority of them really put forth for this township. And it'd be easy to say that we're going into our reserve to help pay for this. Sure we are, but what we've gotten out of it, all the savings that they've brought to this township over the years, and the fact that they have not received the thing for 3 years, I think makes it a good investment. Not something that we can do every year, but we also can't afford to go on year after year not giving them anything.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Well put. Other questions, comments from the board? Mrs. Smith?
I've been with the township several months, and I've been spending a lot more time at the township hall with the different department heads, with the different employees, getting to know everybody. And certainly I think everybody at this township does a wonderful job. When you look at how many people have actually either retired or we have not backfilled or we have laid off, they have certainly picked up the slack. I'm not opposed giving raises. I know that they are all hard workers. I know that they want a raise and they deserve a raise, and I want to give them a raise. But I think that we can do it differently, and I think that we need to investigate those options, because when you take a look at a raise, a dollar raise is not just a dollar raise. You have to match in taxes, so FICA, FUTA, SUTA. You have to match in retirement. So when I look, for example, at one particular individual's, how much this 2% raise would cost the township over 10 years, and it's the highest paid employee, it would cost about over $24,000. So when we talk about legacy costs or adding to the bottom line, I think that possibly doing merit payments at the end of the year, one-time disbursements, so it's not attached to retirement numbers. I think we need to start looking at 401ks. I think we need to start looking at other options. Again, I'm not opposed to a salary increase. I think it needs to be done diligently. I think with our economic situation, it doesn't look good, despite what we want to do. I'm not against this particular one, but I will not approve any raises going forward without us having serious discussions on how they're going to be paid for.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of adjusting management wages for fiscal year 2013-14 in accordance with the proposed management wage adjustment chart, including a 2% cost of living and a $4,500 market adjustment for the Police Department confidential secretary, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. The motion passes. The pay raise passes. Moving on to number 12.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Malvesto.
Budget adjustment for an operating transfer from the 2012-2013 general fund to the Recreation Department budget. The recommendation is to approve the following budget amendment for an operating transfer from 2012-2013 general fund to the 2012-2013 Recreational Department fund in an amount not to exceed $60,000. The adjustment is as follows. Would you like me to read it? The rest of it?
Let's get a second first.
Second.
Okay, supported by Trustee Budney. Let's get the numbers out.
I'm gonna take a stab at this. General Fund 1010-895-999-000. Operating transfer out, $60,000 debit. 1010-000-0001200 cash of $60,000. That's the credit. The Recreation Fund account would be 2080-000-0001200. It's cash of $60,000, and it's going to be a operating transfer in number 2080-039-699-100. That would be the $60,000 transferred into their account.
Okay, the numbers that Trustee Malvesto read is right out of our general fund budget. It's Fund 1010, page 895. I think I've got that right from memory. And line number is the final 5 digits, 999. I don't know what the subsequent zeros are. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Darzniak to explain this transfer. She could probably cover it, the background on it, better than probably all of us here. So,
I'm just going to go ahead. Okay. I think if I read the history and purpose, that pretty much makes it a clear explanation. This resolution is needed to prevent the Recreation Fund from showing a deficit negative fund balance as of March 31st, 2013. The State Revenue Sharing Act of 1971 states that units of local government that end their fiscal year in a deficit condition shall formulate a deficit elimination plan. The plan should be filed with the Department of Treasury and evaluation certification. Should a plan not voluntarily be submitted, Treasurer will no longer request a plan. The local government unit will be sent a notice of intent to withhold state payments. Doing this transfer at this time will eliminate the process of future state reporting and filing of a deficit reduction plan after the audit report has been filed, when in fact the result of this transfer would be the same. Basically, we have to do this. There is no getting around it. We either do it now or we do it after the audit report is done. The reason why this is needed is the Recreation Fund reported a fund balance of $6,900 at the end of March 31 of 12. It is estimated that the Recreation Fund will have an estimated operating loss of approximately $60,000, and that's why we're asking for this one-time transfer. Monies will come from General Fund prior year resources. It is a one-time transfer from the General Fund to the Recreation Department. So basically, due to the season of golf, the recreation, the entire facility, we are estimating a $60,000 loss in that, and we are covering it through general fund. Again, Township Board feels that that recreation is an asset, and whether we do it now or do it later, the same result would be the same. We still have to find the money to make the Recreation Department whole.
Well, the Township Board we haven't voted yet to determine that. We consider recreation an asset, but we're not sure we're going to transfer $60,000 of deficit spending into recreation, which opens the door for me to say that, yes, we lost some money on golf, and the pool loses money every year. Every community pool loses money. I mean, every community pool loses money. We live on an island. Do we want our kids to learn to swim or not? I will support the pool. Again, all these things add to the bottom line. What is the value of people's residential properties with a pool, with a public golf course, or without? I think it adds to everybody's property value. I'm willing to support this. Other questions, comments from the board? Mr. Budde.
Mr. Supervisor, I don't disagree with what you just said, but I think we also have to look at the fact that we don't want this to be a reoccurring item. We do have a problem in the rec, in them meeting a budget with the expenses that they have versus the revenue they can bring in. We have to take a look at that and come up with some solution other than just doing this every year. So although I am in favor of this for a number of reasons, the number one being keeping the state out of our business, and I think it's just something we need to do at this time. I would hope that this board will actually look into this and that we will formulate a plan and take some action so that this doesn't happen in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Rankin.
Mr. Supervisor, and we've settled the recreation budget with some significant bond payments due to all the properties that we've put under their umbrella. So I think just saying that this is a recreation issue is a little bit misleading. It's not necessarily a recreation area. We've just chosen to put a lot of the bond payments from those buildings, namely the Water's Edge buildings, into that. And if I'm reading this correctly, this year, 2013, we've got $75,000 in bond payments.
That is correct.
So if you were to take out those bond payments, obviously we can't, right? But that makes this budget look a whole lot differently. So I just want the board and the public to know that this is not necessarily just a recreation issue and a programming issue. It's really a facility and infrastructure issue that we have.
Actually, we are looking in the fact that they do own a lot of facilities. They own more than we do. I mean, we own this township hall, but they own the playscape. They own the rec department down at the farm. They do have the whole farm facilities. They have the rec department at Water's Edge. I mean, there's a lot of facilities involved, and they own a lift, a marina boat lift. I mean, so they are saddled with a lot of debt. Not only the restaurant, but they're also with their equipment and the redoing of the pool and the demolition of the original restaurant. So they are saddled with debt and assets of this community.
Other comments? Mr. Malvesto, it's your commission.
It's my commission. The residents of this township voted to support a recreational department for various reasons. A lot of them will be personal. A lot of them are just because they believe that overall there should be a recreation department on this island, and there should be different activities to support everyone here. It's easy to say that the pool costs us money to operate, but we can't just choose to only fill half the pool and cut back on heating and chemicals because we reduce the volume by half. We can't choose to just cut one side of Bellevue or the other and shut half the golf course down. The golf course operates with, I believe, over 30 volunteers. That golf course wouldn't exist without those volunteers. And those are people putting in long hours every week to make that happen. It serves the entire community. And you're absolutely right. There's playscapes. There's a number of things that don't show on the surface, as well as this bond payment for the building that they were saddled with. Not by choice. They were saddled with it. We have to live with it. We have to pay with it. Pay for it. But in the future, we may have to go back to the residents and ask them to make the decision whether they want to continue to support recreation and, in fact, increase the millages so that it can run and it can operate in the black without the threat of shutting it down. Tim Rooney and his staff go out for endless grants. They're looking for money all the time to improve things at Water's Edge and around the township. You can't knock them for what they do. They do more than anybody could ask for. You're absolutely right. To me, I think this should be the last time we should be looking at this, but we may have to come back and ask the residents, do you want to continue to support it? But today, we just can't ignore it and think it'll go away by itself. And I'm in favor of the $60,000 to get us through the coming year.
Thank you. I think Mr. Budney,
just a quick comment, and Tom touched on it, and I just want to reiterate that it was not the rec department who asked for this debt. It was put on them and basically told, try and find some revenue to pay for these bonds, and there was no way from day one, quite truthfully, that they could ever meet this, but it's in their budget, so that's why it hurts them. It is rec department, the Water's Edge, are all positive factors for this island, but we do have to attack the problem. Certainly just taking money out of our reserve is not a way to attack the problem. We have to look at it and decide what are we going to do to make this work. And ultimately, it is for the benefit of the people, so asking the people if they really want it may be what we have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Buddy. Mr. Treasurer.
A couple of comments. when it was Water's Edge many years ago, we were in deficit spending. We decided that we were going to change the format on Water's Edge because it was an enterprise zone. So we turned it over to the Recreation Department. The Recreation Department assumed the operation, the maintenance, and the debt. But understand that if we choose, we can choose to close a pool, we can choose to close a golf course, but we still have a $70,000 debt. So it's either going to come out of general fund as rec, or it's going to come out of general fund as township. This is a matter of terminology as to where these funds lie. So I'm not even sure that going after the decision we have to make is how are we going to pay that 70, because we're going to pay it. I mean, we got 50 acres over there that we're going to have to mow. We can't just let it go to weeds. We've got a building there that we have to pay the bond on. I don't care if it's recreation or township or what it is. The $70,000 debt's there. And it's going to be there because we can't just say we're not going to pay it. So that debt is there. So I don't think we need to focus so much on whether rec is losing money. I think what we need to focus on is what are you going to do about the $70,000 debt, or is there anything we can do? Is that a bad decision that was made 20 years ago or 15 years ago? Whenever it was made, and we got to live with it. Because the fact of the matter, the building's there, and it's operating. And we're going to pay that debt, I don't care what you call it. I mean, we can give it to DPS, but it's still a $70,000 debt. At some point in time, we need to pay that until that debt goes away, which is...
portion of it goes away in 2018.
2018, we're not going to see much improvement. I don't care what you do. You can close a pool, you can close a golf course, but you're still going to have the debt. So I think that it's necessary that we focus on the fact that the debt is there. That issue was settled 10 or 15 years ago, and until we get that thing paid off, it's a condition we're in, and it's not going to get any better. And I don't think we should even for a minute consider it as a recreation problem. It's truly a township problem.
Well put. When did we fold Water's Edge as a separate commission into Recreation Commission?
February 14th, 2005.
February 14th? 2005?
Happy Valentine's Day.
That was Valentine's Day.
Okay. And again, as our treasurer pointed out, that was perhaps the right decision that the board faced at that time for them with the information they had. We have different information today. I'm not going to second guess, but we have a bond, and we're going to be paying the bond payments. Other questions, comments from the board?
The only thing I'd like to say, Mr. Supervisor, is that that's another couple of blocks in the promotion of this community as a physically active community. The things that my commissions are working on, the promoting active communities, the bike paths, the trails and open space and nature, the golf course, the pool, the marina, the possible kayak launch. All of these things are building blocks that are going to somehow turn into a mass that are going to say, hey, people that really want to be physically active in their lifestyle are going to want to live here. It's coming. And we've got to keep the faith and keep it coming. Do you understand my...
Oh, absolutely. I concur. It's these are assets that our community offers, and very few, if any, other communities have these assets.
It would be disheartening to add 3 and throw away another 3,
So, thank you, Mr. Prozias. Other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of passing the budget adjustment for an operating transfer of $60,000 from the general fund to the Recreation Department budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. The transfer passes. All right, our final, at least right now, action item, the Technical Professional Office and, I should know this, and Office Workers Association of Michigan contract. Propose that we adopt the agreement between the Township of Grosse Ile and the Technical Professional and Office Workers Association of Michigan, otherwise known as TPOAM, dated March 25th, 2013 through March 31st, 2018.
Support.
Seconded by Treasurer Vanoss. Mr. Ream, history, purpose, and explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The existing contract is set to expire the end of this month, March 31st, and this contract will replace the one that is expiring, and tentatively agreed pending your approval. But the major highlights and provisions are the health care, as Finance Director Darsnick mentioned earlier, that this was the last group to go onto the state health care hard cap provision, which was a tremendous cost savings. And we also agreed that any new hires as of April 1 of 2013 are not eligible for future retirement health benefits after the age of 65. And again, that was consistent with limiting our future liabilities. As retirement, new hires will also, the township's contribution will be limited to a maximum of 10%. And the wages and terms, year 1, 0%, year 2, 0%, year 3, 0%, year 4, 2%, year 5, 2%. We added provisions for new hires where their position pays will be stepped into over a 5-year period, which is results in a cost savings to the township. But some of the large numbers, just the financial impact of this contract for new hires, estimated over the term of a career, not including inflation, is pushing that $400,000 mark mentioned by the finance director earlier. The wage adjustments in year 4 and 5 of this contract will cost the township approximately $40,000. But the health care contribution the employees will now make is saving approximately $20,000 annually. So this is the last group to head in that direction with these types of things. And again, it was a long process. It began with the management team 5 years ago. And we have slowly brought ourselves toward these types of tiered benefits and result in a long-term cost savings to the township. So it asks your consideration and approval of this contract.
Has the TPOAM ratified their side yet?
Their ratification is scheduled. They've done a tentative agreement as a group. Yes.
All right.
But that was the term they used.
Tentative.
Yes.
Okay. That does have legal standing. Questions, comments from the board, Mr. Anka.
Mr. Supervisor, Dale, I think you and Ann and all have done a great job on negotiating this so far. I mean, you've followed the model with the police contract, so you've hit their health care to follow with what the governor wants us to do from a health care standpoint. You've addressed the legacy costs with the new hires and with the step wages. And at the end of the day, I think the terms and conditions are very fair for both the employees and for the township. So I'm very happy with the contract as it's submitted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Other questions, comments from the board? We've sort of left no stone unturned this evening in what we're paying for, what we're trying not to pay for, what we're doing, what we're not doing. I think we might be worn out. So, with no other comments from the board, those in favor of adopting the agreement between the Township of Grosse Ile and the Technical Professional and Office Workers Association of Michigan, dated March 25th, 2013 through March 31st, 2018, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? It is ratified from the township side, management side. That concludes our action items. We'll step on to reports. Clerk's report. Clerk Ranka.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. No report, but as generally happens when you try and recognize people, you miss a few. So during my annual report, I failed to recognize Lorinda and Lori and Dale from the Community Development Department as helping to keep the behind-the-scenes Planning Commission stuff running as smoothly as it does, as well as Chief Porcerelli and Deputy Chief Strapaniak and Lieutenant Bowe for all they do with the police department.
All right.
That's it.
That's it? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ranka. Treasury report, Mr. Van Oss.
Barry, when's the DPS meeting? What, 9th? We have a DPS meeting coming up the 9th. I'm sure you'll handle that. Financial reports. If you need a copy, I've got one in my office. I've said everything else on the annual report, so I have no further comment.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Trustee reports, Mrs. Smith.
Couple of things. The Festival Commission continues to meet and plan for this year's event running May 1st through this June 2nd, or I'm sorry, May 31st through June 2nd. That would be a really long Island Fest. There's going to be really a lot of really new cool events. Fast Track Exotics is going to be there, and they have sports cars, and they will be available to race down the runway. There's going to be monster truck rides, and it's my understanding that these monster trucks are really neat from the standpoint of they hold 10 people that you strap in and hold on for dear life. Still looking for corporate sponsors, so if anybody knows anybody, we're certainly interested in talking to them. As far as the Communications Commission, I'm starting to work on some policy and on how the back end of this new website or content management system will be managed. I've been going around talking to department heads to see if there's any issues, challenges, and whatnot, so I can bring that hopefully to the next meeting that we meet in April, so we can have a dialogue about that and get some policy put in place. I checked, I'm a big Facebook user, I'm a big social media user. The other day when I was on Facebook, I noticed that there's the you're from Groseal, win, ... Facebook page, and I think it's a really good source of information because there was dialogue about the playscape and people commenting back and forth about, oh yeah, I loved it, oh my kids go there all the time, but I don't take them there anymore because there's bees. So we discover that there's bee problems at the playscape. So it's just keeping in tune with what's going on. I certainly would recommend that department heads take a look at some of these pages every once in a while. You never know what you're going to discover. One of the last things I wanted to maybe discuss or at least possibly recommend that we do as a board, when I was the recording secretary to the Board of Education for Lapeer Community Schools, every year we would do a book study. And that just is basically you determine what book you want to read, we all read it, and we come back with some ideas and, a couple takeaways. One of the books that we read was Good to Great by Jim Collins. And I don't know if anybody's read that, but it's an excellent business book. It's about getting the right people in the right spots, not getting new people, but getting the right people in the right spots, moving the bus forward, and confronting the brutal facts about what's good, what works, what's broken, what needs to be fixed. So that's just a suggestion that maybe we could consider doing. And then also tonight I heard a lot of common themes, or at least threads, in a lot of the approvals and the budget process, and it seems like get us through this year. So now that we're getting us through this year, how do we correct it for the following year? Because if we only continue to meet at business meetings and go over the same thing, in 6, 9, 12 months, we're going to be right back here again. And I know we all don't want to be doing this again. I think that we can put together some really good recommendations, work with our employees to try and fix some of these problems, because maybe they have better ideas than what we may have. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
I'm tired.
First one of these, how long will we hear that?
Oh, well. 11 hours.
that was a marathon.
In 20 minutes.
Mr. Posiask.
There's an open space committee meeting tomorrow night at 7 here at Township Hall. Nothing else to report.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thanks. We're moving along then. Mr. Budney.
Nothing else
Yes.
to report?
DPS Commission meeting, the next one will be in April. We will be going over that day. In fact, we will be taking our annual tour of the island to determine our capital improvement projects, so that'll be discussed at that meeting. ZBA meets tomorrow. We have 3 cases, so it's going to be another marathon session tomorrow night. The only other thing I would, again, as I always do, suggest to the people who are out there to come down to the meetings and see us in person, talk to us. We have to find out from you what you want and what your thoughts are. It can't all be done at this meeting. We need you to contact us. You got email, you have telephone, whatever, but we need to hear from you. And hopefully it'd be nice someday to have half this room filled at every meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Malvesto.
I'm going to look at both Chief Murdoch and Tim Rooney. Fire Commission meets the second Thursday of every month at 7:30. That should put us on the 11th. And Tim, the Rec Commission meets the fourth Thursday of every month at 7:30. There's lots of things going on. I'm sorry? This Thursday as well. Okay, thank you. That's about it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malvesto. I guess I can wrap this up as quickly as possible then. Okay, Grosse Ile Township offices will be closed this Friday, March 29th, for the Good Friday holiday. Wish everybody a happy, blessed Easter. The upcoming events, Grosse Ile Township island-wide garage sale. Been on Friday and Saturday, August 23rd and 24th. Yeah, we're getting it out early because people are already calling, asking about it. So, again, I'm not a garage sale guy, but the people who are, stay out of their way because this is serious business. So anyway, August 23rd and August 24th, people are interested. And Carol is one to contact. She puts together the map. She orchestrates it. There is no charge to register. Upcoming events, DTE, the plant just off the Grosse Ile Parkway, off the county bridge, will have some construction on their site. They will be using heavy equipment and will be entering their plant area via the gate off Grosse Ile Parkway. If you remember the picture of that huge coyote, that's the vicinity of the gate. Their equipment will be impacting traffic on Grosse Ile Parkway. We're meeting with DTE and other communities later this week to find the exact parameters, and when we get the dates, times, and impact, we'll get that information to you. It is coming. And I think I consider this good news. The International Wildlife Refuge Alliance dinner is coming up. I got this from John Hardig earlier this week. There are some available for you to take home. He had promised to expedite opening the wildlife refuge with the visitor service plan. He has given me his usual guarantee that he will have it open the weekend before Memorial Day so that it will be open for full Memorial Weekend, primarily the west side, the west beach of Sugar Island. Believe me, for the federal government or an agency thereof to move this quickly, this is what we would call a meteoric pace. But he promised he would get it done, and our inputs at the workshop and the meetings certainly helped. He could gauge. He took our inputs. He gauged our level of interest. The beauty of this, for those of you who have been using Sugar Island beaches, you were trespassing. Now it's, as taxpayers, you are a co-owner. Part of it is open for your use. The rules will be just like any other state park. Sunrise to sunset, no alcohol, no fires, and pets on a leash. That concludes my report. I want to wish, like everyone else, another blessed Easter. Have a great weekend. At this time, we'll open it up to public comment. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Buddy.
Township manager?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Mr. Ream. Thanks, Jim.
I was going to say no report, but Mr. Anker reminded me during my announcements, Mr. Fournier was in the control room, so I did not announce him as township staff. So my apologies, and nothing further to add.
Thank you, Mr. Ream. Did I miss anybody else? Because it happens. Okay, with that, again, thank you. Open up the public comment. Same rules as before. 3 minutes, introduce yourself, 3 minutes on any topic. Tell us what a great job we did, tell us what a lousy job we did, and open up to Mr. Clark.
Mr. Ream, does you have the legal fees?
$1,500.
He's grandfathered into being allowed to ask a question.
Oh, that's good. To who?
O'Reilly Rancilio.
Okay, the wood cutting didn't go that well because everybody thought there was going to be the week before, and that the week before was snowing, and I didn't want anybody to slip and fall. So they came in the second week, and about four or five people came, and they cut some wood. When I was there, right there at the wood cutting area at 26459 East River Road, 2 telephone poles, one standing, one laying down. The one standing looks like it was there since 1940, and it's coming down slowly. What's hanging on a tree even? So I was wondering if DTE could come out and do their job.
Okay.
I'll take one out
Duly
and
noted.
put one in. East River Road is turning into crap. And it won't get any better from Horse Mill to Ferry. It's just chopping up and chopping up. Wayne County's trying to do it, but it's just not getting there. And we don't have any money to do it. I thought maybe with your road committee you could work on the Sacred Heart turn, where it's a mess, total messed up there. Corner of Macomb and Meridian. We've talked to you about that before, where the trucks turn the corner and dig up the cement, dig up the dirt. Looks pretty bad again. We can put it in asphalt or cement. They can run it over all they want, but they don't wreck ours, so we don't have to keep on bringing in dirt and grass seed and fix it. And okay, Tim Rooney does a wonderful job, an outstanding job of what he does back there. The man works like a horse. But how much are we giving them in the last 10 years? Isn't it around $50,000 a year? To Water's Edge, or whatever you want to call it over there?
Pretty close.
Pretty close to 50,000. So they're really, and how much is the bond for? Is that a total 70,000, or is it
It's
close to?
Very close to 70.
And how much do we pay on that a year?
I don't have that information. I can get it for you, but
Okay, well, we'll try for the next meeting.
no, that's 70,000 a year. I'm sorry.
Oh, we have to pay 70,000 a year?
Yeah.
We don't know the total.
And I don't. 2018, we pay off part of it.
Okay, we'll get back to you next week.
All right.
Next time.
See Ann, she'll give you those.
Okay? All right, you can give it to me and I'll say so.
Well, so much for not answering questions. What the heck, we've been here a long time. Further public comment. Mr. Janoski.
Ron Janowski, Grow Road. We're getting into a legal problem here, because if you're going to afford to answer questions for someone else and discriminate against me, we got legal issues. I'd like to ask Mr. Van Oos a question about our money that we have invested, but if you were to be so kind as to answer my question, you'd probably tell me to go ahead to Township Hall, and I could probably get those records. I think my question would be beneficial to the public, and I'd like to ask it at a public forum, but I'm not going to, because I've already been told that I can't ask questions and you don't have to answer them. As far as your response you brought, no, this is my 3 minutes, and you can
I'm not
comment.
taking from your time. We answered questions from Mr. Clark.
Well, you told me before I can't ask questions. What's it going to be? And it's not for me, it's for the public.
Ask a question for the public, Mr. Janoski.
No. Are you going to allow questions from the public?
I just said I'm going to allow you to ask a question.
Not me, the public.
I'm going to allow you to ask a question.
I would like the public policy.
Okay, I'm going to take away allowing you to ask a question then. That window just closed. Continue with, you've got 2 minutes left.
Okay, you, on item number 10, recognition of consent judgment. Consent judgment, as I understand it, is an agreement to put to rest a suit that is brought against whoever. Is that correct? Well, I can't ask a question, I'm sorry. And you also made reference that the packets were available on Thursday night or Friday morning or something, and that we could get all the information we need. Well, if it's a legal issue and it hasn't been settled, that kind of information isn't available to the public. But yet, the board can without giving the public any information monetarily. I don't care who's involved in this, except the township is involved with a township resident against another township resident. So I'm not sure how that really shakes out. But that information isn't available to the people. So I've already sued the township under FOIA because, and that didn't work out real good for you guys, because it was found that you did not want to be transparent and give the public any information or some of the information that you felt wasn't necessary to give us. So you know what? I can see the door closing here. I'm not going to ask any more questions. I'm going to sit down with an attorney, and I'm going to find out exactly where you stand on this, and then maybe we should take legal action again. Or you could do. You've been elected by the public, and I think you should serve the public, not just be up here as a dictator and do whatever you want. And when someone has questions, I know I'm a pain in your hind end. And someone's got to ask some questions. Everybody can't just sit mute, and there's not a lot of people that want to get off their duff and come down here. But you know what? I think I asked some pretty substantial questions. I like Ms. Smith, and I think she's going to get worn down, but I really like your enthusiasm, and I hope they don't beat you up. They do, let me know, because you asked some very good questions and bring up some concerns. And I think that's what this board is supposed to be. It's not a club. It's not a, hey, we're all buddies and we're all going to do this. We're all going to keep things from the public. Yeah, I can go into Township Hall and ask a question, and you can give me, and you can blow smoke, in my ears. And the last administration did that on a regular basis, and there was no, okay, my 3 minutes are up.
Yep, they are. Mr. Jaworski, you threw out an allegation that from your FOIA request that the township declined to provide the information you requested. That's not what happened. The result was the township had not maintained those records. Not that they wouldn't provide them to you; they weren't maintained. Those are different results.
Okay, how are we doing on that now? We never did a policy. We talked about it at one meeting, and we
are working on preserving electronic data. Mr. Ranka is making great strides.
How long will that take?
Beyond my ability.
Ms. Smith made a comment. Mr. Buggy made a comment.
We're going too far with this. You made an allegation that was incorrect. I corrected it. If you want, here's my recommendation. If you want to ask a question, you know how to contact any of us. Ask us the question. We'll get you the answer. We have data available. You can ask the question or you can repose the question at the podium and recite the answer we gave to you. If you're not happy with it, and the community agrees with you, they'll let us know. If they don't agree with you, they'll let us know.
So I can write my questions down, you will read my questions?
Not what I said. I want you to ask us your questions while we have the opportunity to research and give you an accurate answer, not try to answer from the cuff. And then you can come to the podium on Monday nights and tell us you were happy with the answer or weren't happy with the answer. Or it led to further questions.
In all fairness, I don't want to ask you any questions you can't answer. But again, I'm going to make this statement. I bet you there isn't anybody in this room that can tell me what we pay for wholesale water, and yet we're going to raise the water rates. $2.75. Oh, hey, then you've been paying attention.
Okay, great. Armed with that. Any other public comment? Terry, with none offered, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Budney.
Support.
Second by Clerk Rankoff. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? Want to thank everyone for coming tonight. We're going to call the meeting adjourned at 11 o'clock.